hey, Jessica, it's good to see you. And you're the reigning champion of Africa Quiz Show in Asheville. Do you want to talk about that, among many other things? And I think we met through your involvement with Sister Cities Asheville. So I definitely want to hear about Sister Cities and this fun quiz show we did. And how the heck do you know so much about Africa?
I can't say that gosh, well, so to start off with the Let's Explore Africa, it's a local game show hosted by Sandra Frempong, who I actually met Sandra when she served on the Asheville Sister Cities board. She was the chair of our Oshogbo Nigeria committee. So Sister Cities is an organization locally in Asheville, but it's part of an umbrella of chapters all around the world and cities. Probably if you're watching this in your own backyard, there's some type of a relationship with a city that you should check out. But we are all about promoting cross-cultural relationships, citizen diplomacy, and peace and understanding through friendships and projects that can mutually benefit both cities and their surrounding areas. So Sandra had asked me to be on that game show about Let's Explore Africa. And it's just a way to ask different trivia questions. And I told her, I was like, Sandra, I'm going to embarrass myself. Are you sure you want,
well, wait, let's be real. Like, none of us really killed it, did we? I mean,
right,
you just did less bad than everyone else.
Right. That was like the whole thing. She was like, wrong answers don't count against you. So that was my strategy.
I will definitely put a link in the notes for people who want to see how terrible we actually did. And no, you did great. And my son was there and he's inspired to join the next maybe a kids session that she does.
I love it. Yeah.
But you definitely had you got some facts there. I think it's really unfortunate that in the US we don't have more education around the continent of Africa when we're in grade school, in middle school, doing geography. I know plenty of people throughout Africa learn all about North America. They can list off all the lakes in our country, and it's really sad, I think, that we don't do more here.
List the lakes in our country.
I can't.
Yeah, it makes me a little sad when I hear people refer to the country of Africa, and I'm like, oh no.
I used to have a magnet on my fridge that said Africa is not a country. Yeah. But I think it is interesting you're headed to South Africa. And I think before I started working on the continent of Africa, specifically East Africa and the country of Rwanda, it can be a little confusing that South Africa is a country, not a region. But I'm curious, how you got involved in Sister Cities and then your connection to South Africa, where you're headed soon.
Yeah, so I got involved in Sister Cities when I moved to Asheville about 10 years ago, really because I sought it out, because as when I was in high school, a good friend of mine.
You're done. It's like time to go out.
Like, I want to go out. A good friend of mine was the student recipient of a scholarship program for our sister city where we grew up, and it changed her life and put her on a course of just really getting to know the world around her in a much more interactive way than just being a passive tourist, but really meeting people, understanding culture, and trying to meet at least halfway, if not trying to understand different relationships, why people tick, how that someone's opinion and perspective can be different from their own. So I sought it out when I came to Asheville and have been involved ever since. And then I recently was elected to the board of directors for Sister Cities International, and that's the umbrella organization for all the different city chapters. And huge honor.
Congratulations. Wow, we got a celebrity in the house now.
Really excited to be part of that organization. And through the umbrella, the parent company, essentially, they organize different summits around the world. There was a US Mexico summit that took place last year, and this year it's the US Africa summit, and it's all about promoting economic development in this case, or cultural partnerships, student exchanges, delegation visits, any way that we can help bolster each of the regions and have like this mutual understanding of one another that goes beyond what you see on the mainstream media.
That's amazing. So how many trips have you taken as a Sister Cities delegate at this point?
That's a good question. It's
Too many
all
to count.
volunteer. Like
Yeah.
every single bit of this is volunteer. And there's,
Yeah.
people are like, oh, that's awesome. You get paid to
You
go do
pay
that.
your own way.
No, you
Yeah.
not only do you not get paid, but you pay your own way. But the benefits of really like getting to make these connections and networking far outweigh, you do have to have some financial means, but it also is the opportunity that you can, we've been working to do grants and scholarships with the local embassies and consulates, and finding ways to connect and support one another that bolsters some of the financial part of it, but also you often are doing homestays, or you're being taken to dinner, you're an honored guest, so it's not as intense as just like a trip to Europe or something. So but I do really appreciate all of the things that I've gotten to do with Sister Cities. We did a trip with Sister Cities International. I've only been on the board since July. So this is my first big trip with that group. I did go to Santa Fe for a regional meeting like of the board, but this is the first big trip for them. With Asheville, we have 7 sister cities, and I have been trying to visit most of them. We have a trip coming up to Karpanisi, Greece in May that I'll be going on. I've been to Scotland and Mexico, our sister cities there, and did a big trip. Took 25 people from Asheville over to Saumur, France in 2017. I was actually just finding all that people.
That is a big group.
Yeah.
That is a big
Yeah.
group. I just got back from Rwanda, as you know, and I hope that you can be on one of those trips someday. We only had a few people. I've done trips with maybe 7. Even that is, it gets complex the bigger it gets, right? It's a lot of people, a lot of personalities, a lot of schedules, habits to manage, different vehicles. So yeah.
I was thinking about that trip. It was a wonderful trip, and it helped that it was a smaller city, so it was more centralized, and we did have a pretty packed schedule, but kind of on the front and back end, people get to do whatever they want to do, and then have the programming. But
that's amazing. Well, I grabbed I wish you had one in front of you right now too. I need to start sending these ahead. But I have the rooibos vanilla newest Sarilla flavor, and this is made with honeybush and rooibos. It grows in South Africa. And for anyone interested in how Jess and I know each other, we actually had offices next to each other in a shared building space in Asheville, North Carolina. And that's how we got to know each other. And then I attended a couple of Sister Cities events here, and our husbands happen to be members of the same CrossFit gym. It sounds like your husband's excited to go with you on this trip. And I know I want to hear about where you're speaking as well. But, with Sarilla, part of our foundation and mission is really building a transparent supply chain and walking the talk when it comes to ethical sourcing. And I got my start in fair trade and working for some third-party certification bodies back in the day. And I think that it's important for people to look for fair trade, but it's even more important for people to kind of ask questions and look behind the label of especially the favorite products we have that we continue to support with our dollars in stores. And so I just always encourage consumers to ask questions and kind of, when someone calls out a claim like ethical sourcing or sustainability, or what does that mean? You know, we did a deep dive on that in our student advisory committee this week on the word sustainability, because people are using it a lot right now. And it's like, let's question it a little bit. Like, that sounds good, but what does it actually mean? And so we're working really closely with farmers in Rwanda to not only like source directly from them, but to help them build quote unquote sustainable farms that are actually regenerative. And I think it's really, you know, it's something that we'll unpack in future episodes, but I'm excited to work with more farmers that are using regenerative agriculture processes, whether they're certified or not. To me, certification is more for the consumer on the US side, that they can be assured from the label that it's gone through that rigorous third-party certification. But as a brand, I'm more interested in what's actually happening at the farm level. And so for us to branch out and start working with some farmers in South Africa is really new for me, because I'm much more familiar with the like how things are going in Rwanda. And so the fact that you're going to South Africa and you're going to visit a couple of these farms and scout them out is really, really helpful. So thank you for doing that. And I thought maybe we could just go over like a few of the things that we're looking for and how we're going to approach that. And then we can do another kind of part 2 when you get back and talk about what you discovered at these farms. And I think it could really help some other brands and maybe consumers as they're trying to really walk the talk when it comes to ethical supply chains, transparency, and sustainability.
Absolutely.
So is this kind of the first type of, well, first, like, where are you speaking in South Africa, and what's your interest in that? I know you like to do farm visits.
Yeah, I do. Locally, ASAP, the Appalachian Sustainable Agricultural Project, is a really incredible organization that organizes farm tours locally. And I always try to go or volunteer for them in the fall when they host those. And the farms that are involved are incredible. A lot of regenerative, sustainable farming. But it is true, like, using the buzzwords is something that can make people feel comfortable, but often is kind of shallow in meaning. And so really understanding the practices and meeting with the farmers and seeing for yourself, like, how do these farms work, and what is the level of use when it comes to pesticides or fertilizers or anything that you really don't necessarily want put in your body when it comes to the final product. So I think when I'm in Cape Town, that's where the summit will be. I will be speaking on marketing that works for sister cities and promoting sister cities. But a lot of the conferences and the networking opportunities will be looking at economic development projects. So similarly, like, having Sarilla be a company that works with people in South Africa and works with farmers there is an excellent example of economic development that could come out of sister cities collaborations.
Nice.
And so when I had heard from you just in conversation that you were interested in branching out, I thought that would be a nice fit if it was helpful.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, perfect. It's a triple win. It's a win for us and then potentially the farmers we're working with too, right? So it can be challenging finding, like, identifying new suppliers that maybe aren't currently selling in the US. So I know like a lot of brands will typically go for maybe like a supply house or an ingredient supplier based in the US that's sourcing from around the world. So I think that's kind of more of a standard way to do it. But I like working with smaller farms that maybe don't have the same access to markets. And so what are some of the questions that you're going to bring to these farms just to kind of get the ball rolling on identifying if it's a good fit for our brand and if they have the capacity to scale with us?
Yeah, so I know you had mentioned whether if it's a fair trade practice and pesticide free and what type of certifications that they have. and certainly interested in their regenerative farming practices and what that means to them and how it actually looks. You had mentioned wild foraging, so I'd like to hear a little bit more about that and what you're looking for, and just from the logical or logistical and technical side, their capacity limitations, if that's a issue when it comes to a smaller farm, and any kind of things about like shipping and international
Mhm.
kind of regulations. So
Yeah. I'm curious about this wild foraged. Honeybush is what they're saying is wild foraged. And I think they can also grow that on farms, but I'll be interested in hearing more about what that looks like and where they're actually going to wild forage, and if there are like limitations on how much is being produced. And I guess too, like, I'm still learning about this concept, but what is the benefit of that? Um, like, why are they marketing it as, better for the planet and better for you because it is wild foraged? I'm just curious about that.
might have to do with like if it's wild forage, then
Soil.
they're not like water management issues, and they're not like the land use, maybe. I don't know. This is all just a guess.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
could be an interesting way to look at it, but definitely
Yeah.
harder when it comes to capacity and
Right.
like consistency in supply chain. And
Right.
so we'll see.
That's more of a wild card. I mean, we have honeybush suppliers that are growing it on a farm. I think
Mhm.
you're going to be at least one like that. So yeah, it's more of like a information gathering. And then, I think beyond like the specific questions that you can ask is, what's the vibe of the community? Like, I found when I was scouting for some tea partners in East Africa, I visited a couple in Kenya. I tried to visit some in Rwanda. Um, and it was tough to get through to a lot of them. It was like very closed, and just it was difficult to take tours and to schedule and to meet the farmers. And
Yeah.
then when I landed on our current partners, it was completely different. Like, we drove in and there was just like a very kind of happy, joyful vibe just in the village. You can kind of tell, like, do people seem like they're getting the nutrition and food that they need, and they have things they're doing and income, and like the children are at school. And so there's this general vibe, because if it's a big operation, it typically is creating a lot of jobs. So I'd be curious to, like, how many jobs are being created, um, whether it's fair trade certified or not. Like, what are the things they're doing in the community that's helping society? And then, so more of like the social part, and then of course, the specific environmental part, and like, what is the soil being treated with, if anything? Because I know there's also some government programs where farms are given fertilizer, and that's a really tough decision for some farmers, because it might even be free or low cost, but it often has chemicals in the fertilizer. So I'll be interested in that. How
Excellent.
many farmers are there? Also, like, what do their facilities look like, and how many farmers are involved? And I guess, like, if it's a relatively new operation, like in the past 5 or 10 years, how are they growing, and what are their plans moving forward? Like, what are their goals too? Like, I don't want to assume that every farm necessarily wants to even be selling internationally. Maybe they're happy with where they're at and they're not looking to grow. So that would be a question of, like, what are their goals, and are they even interested in partnering and expanding?
Yeah. Just writing down my notes.
Yeah, yeah. And then I have lots of pictures. I hope it's fun. That's another thing, is like, are people comfortable with, making their operation public, and even like disclosing the location and the name and photos? And I always ask permission with that, because I think a lot of times, farmers in the field maybe are getting their photos taken and they don't know like where it's going, and then it's used in marketing material. And I just feel like everyone deserves, the chance to have,
Yes.
the ability to make that choice. And so yeah, I wish I could be there. Sounds like it's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, I think so. It's a packed schedule, so it'll be a good event no matter what.
Yeah. And then like when it comes to logistics, I mean, for sure we could have that conversation probably as a next step with them if it looks like a good fit. We had Lisa on last week and she was with me in Rwanda. She's our freight partner. So she is going to be helping to coordinate all of our international freight and import export. We work with agents as well to do that. So as long as they're set up on that side to do that and have the paperwork we need, then we can help with that. Most likely, like sometimes we'll get samples from a farm internationally using DHL, just in small quantities to test it out or do R&D. And then after that, we'll set up our first LTL shipment by sea.
That sounds good. Those are good. Yeah, because I'll have WhatsApp if I have any like immediate questions that I can't answer. But yeah, that's a good amount of information at least to know what I'm looking for and if they have questions. Yeah. So
have you experienced rooibos much in terms of like, do you know the flavor profile and the health benefits?
A little bit. I personally have gotten into, I'm not a coffee drinker, so I drink a lot of tea, and have been exploring more even in the last year or two about different teas. Have even started so like helping out a friend of mine at Embrew, EMBREWT, and learning a lot through her and her entrepreneurial work and the teas and the different flavor profiles that she's got too. So yeah, I'm definitely exploring the world of tea more. And with rooibos specifically, I've had some introductions to it but never like a true tasting test, so I think that'll be a fun educational experience for me as well.
Yeah, hopefully they'll have a cupping opportunity there. I love it because, I mean, as you know, it's caffeine free, but it has a really bold flavor and it's considered a red tea because of the color.
Yeah.
And I really love the honeybush, which is a separate herb, but it does, to the name, it adds a little bit of sweetness without any calories. So it's a really nice combination. I met someone from South Africa recently, here in Asheville, and he was saying like, they grow up drinking it every day.
Yeah.
It's like water there. It's just part of their daily. So it's got tons of health benefits. It's a very functional ingredient. So I hope you enjoy it, and safe travels. And what's your flight route?
So got kind of lucky. Asheville to Atlanta, Atlanta to Cape Town.
That's it.
Yeah. It's a long trip, but
how long's that flight?
I think it's almost 15 hours.
Wow.
I think it's 15 and a half, somewhere in there.
That's a lot of movies.
It is, and I
or
don't
a lot of work, whatever you choose to do.
A little bit of both. I don't sleep well on planes, so
yeah.
we'll see.
Oh my gosh. And what do you do in your day job?
Yeah, so it cross-pollinates a little bit with this. So I represent foods, any kind of CPG, so consumer packaged goods, that have a health benefit. And so anything that is a better for you product, and to market it and advertise it directly to health professionals. So a dietitian or a wellness coach or nutritionist or doctor, nurse, diabetes educator. It could be, whatever the product is beneficial for and who would be having that conversation with their patients and clients. So, for example, if it were to be your tea, it would be kind of like a conversation about drinking this as opposed to soda, or how to get less sugar in the beverages that you're drinking and still have something rewarding and nice, a good, nice experience. And so we build that kind of almost and brand ambassadorship with a health professional who can then continuously recommend it to their patients once they feel like they've been educated about the product and they really understand the nutritional profile and what they're offering or what they're recommending. And then we can provide samples or coupons to help incent trial for the consumer themselves. But there's a lot of data out there that says that consumers rely on their health professional the most to for making purchase. So that's what I
Wow.
do in my day job.
That's amazing. What is
Yeah.
how do people reach you if they're interested in connecting for your services?
Pulsehw.com. So PULSEHW, pulsehealthandwellness.com.
Okay.
And I've been doing that for about 13 years.
And
So
is that nationwide? You work with health professionals around the country in the
all around the
US?
country. Yeah, we
Okay.
work with brands, startups to Fortune 500s all around the US.
That's so interesting. So like, who would what would the ideal type of product be that could to your mind?
It
Could
could
it
be
be any kind of better for you brand?
any kind of better for you brand. We've worked with Barilla pasta on their gluten-free and their whole grain varieties, Stony filled Yo Baby yogurt, because they have a more premium yogurt that has probiotics in it for as early as 6 months old. So a lot of pediatric programming there. Doing a lot more in the supplement industry as well. And it really could be anything. any
Wow. So how do you get endorsements from the health professionals? Are they paid?
No.
No, they
So
just,
yeah.
how do you get their buy-in?
It's truly the two main ways are education, like a familiarity with the nutritional profile of the product, and then also a personal experience with the brand. So not everyone's going to be 100% on board, but if you can, through what we do, focusing more on education over advertising and really focus on how this product can be used, like what conversation does it fit into, what are some easy first steps to switch to this versus something else, especially around diabetes. That's a big concern for our country, and having a product that isn't so laden with sugar, or an alternative to even some of the fruit juices that are higher in sugar, or any kind of carbonated soft drink. So like having a drink like Sarilla is an excellent alternative.
Okay, well, amazing. And you've never tried to sell me on that service, which
No,
is
I think this might be the first time you've actually found out what I do for a day job.
I'm like, this is a good fit. All right, we have like so much to do together. So this is awesome. Well, enjoy your trip to South Africa, and when you get back, we'll talk about your marketing services and how we can be practitioner approved.
Right, exactly.
Thanks for coming on today.
Yeah, of course. I'm excited to go and then catch up when we get back.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.